We're here today to discuss things of mutual interest to the national public. We'll touch on crime trends. We'll also look at our public meetings. That's one way of the police increasing its community engagement. We'll look at the recently ABE training or PIP training, and Mr. Thompson will do some explanation on that. We'll look at resource constraints, and we'll also highlight some of our challenges, which include a number of burglaries which we had in the Salem district area over the last quarter of 2015, and a fire at Lookout.
What has been done from the police standpoint to curb such activities, wanton activities, not only in that particular area, but across the island?
At the end of the reporting period, we were still below the number that we reported over 2014. However, because of that spike, it brought the community into some area of panic, if you call it that. And this was concerning for us. What we did, the police decided to change our approach. We did not publicize it. However, we detached a full team of officers, some 10 officers were detached and placed specifically in the district area, Salem district area, where the number of burglaries went on, to address and arrest that issue. So far, one person was arrested in connection with at least one of the burglaries, and the investigation still continues. We have not changed our approach, so that area is being covered by those officers over this period, and will continue. What we have done also, we have changed our shift pattern system, where the force is now divided into 4, and we have officers from each department, whether it be CID, Marine, and Traffic, are working on a 24 hours basis. So and each team is managed by an inspector. What we are doing, we are increasing the level of supervision. We are also increasing the level of customer interaction. When I say customer interaction, that's the police face on the ground. And we are also increasing how we do things. We are communicating with the public more. You're seeing more officers on the street. And also, we are actually doing more. Community engagement is very important for a police service. And as we engage the community, we could actually get information from the community as to the things which impacts the community most. And also, the community itself could provide solutions as to how best we could police that community. And we have increased our contact by many ways. One, over the past few weeks, we have had a number of town hall meetings, one with the Hispanic community, with some 80 or 90 persons attended, another with the Haitian community, where about 50 or 60 persons attended, and again, the Haitian community is also growing on Montserrat. And we had a town hall meeting at the old Salem Primary School, specifically to target the Salem district area. However, that was a little smaller than expected, where we had just about 25 persons attending the Salem district area meeting. And that's one way of the Royal Montserrat Police Force engaging the public in different ways. So that's part of our community engagement, and it also helps us to gather information and for the public to tell us exactly what are some of the things which affects the public and how best we could work together to find solutions to deal with those issues.
The town hall meetings were also, at those meetings we were accompanied by other agencies, and the whole thrust of that exercise was really to get a multi-agency approach where we can do a lot of things with just in one exercise. And the fact that we were able to bring on board a number of other agencies is demonstrates our willingness to work with other agencies and also the community to make sure that our service that we are providing for Montserrat is one of a high quality. That is at the forefront of our strategies, that we have to make sure that our community is safe. I want to say, though, that I want to use this opportunity to thank all the members of the Royal Montserrat Police Service for the work that they've been doing. As Commissioner would have explained, it took a lot to divert a significant portion of your staff to one particular area, and that would have impacted on other things, on other activities that would have wanted to do at the same time. I'm sure you would appreciate that around November, December, that would have been the point where Montserrat would have had its festival activities, and that too accounts for a significant demands on our human resource. Now, I want to make this point at this time. I think it's important that we say, as a service, it is imperative that we get the necessary resources to support us in providing security for Montserrat. Quite frankly, I don't think that is what we're getting at this time, and it's important that we do so. I liken it onto a vehicle. If you have a vehicle and you don't service it, you jump in it every day and you drive it and you don't service that vehicle is going to break down, and it is likely to cost you more in the long run. We need resources to do the work and to support the exercises and the activities to keep Montserrat safe. I'm really pleased this morning that we had a private entity coming forward to support, and I'm sure that they would have seen the need for that trust and the need for them to get involved. So I want to make an appeal that we need resources to keep Montserrat safe.
Are you getting the support to raise your profile or the image of the RMPS within the community?
We are getting some support, but it is slow. I think, too, that there is a need for us internally to do some work in raising our own profile. And we have taken that initiative on board. We have our Facebook page. We're using social media a lot more. We are interacting with the press a lot more. And I'm sure ZGB can attest to the fact that they're getting more information from the Royal Montserrat Police Service, and that goes to the grain where we are saying, look, we need to inform the public. We need to tell them exactly what it is that we're doing, and we are working on improving the standards of doing so a lot more. The fact that we are sitting here this morning in a press conference speaks to the fact that we are making an effort to raise the profile. I want to say this, though, that over the last couple of months, we've had some instances with police officers, and it is a lot of the times they're largely played out on social media and in the press. But I want to say this: a lot of the times these things are not brought to the attention of senior managers within the service in a timely manner, and I would want to make an appeal for persons out there to bring these things to our attention soonest so that we can respond appropriately. When they are played out in the media, when they are played out in social media, what you're likely to get is one side of the story. We're asking that persons allow us to deal with these matters speedily and in a transparent manner. And in doing so, we need to get that the information so that we are better able to, one, respond to questions and to provide information to the public as to what exactly it is that we're doing.
Could you identify some of the resources that you say that you need? Are you thinking about this on a budget level, or is it more practical, technical help that you need?
Development of human resource training, and we have been doing that over the past financial year. There's some 60 to 70 courses that officers were exposed to over that year. However, if we have the training available and the other resources, the physical resources, say for instance, you need special equipment to carry out your function and that is not available, you will have the training, but the resource not available. There's some budgetary constraints which I'll address when it comes to resources. We're looking at and we have been addressing this from time to time, a fit-for-purpose vessel for Montserrat. That's something which is necessary. We are looking at the extension of the maritime zone from 3 miles to 12 miles. If that is done, the current vessel we have is not adequate to provide national security or border security around this area. If Montserrat is seen as the weakest link in the system, then persons will use our waters to ply their business. And we need to be adequately resourced in relation to have a up and running seaworthy vessel with a marine branch properly trained and skilled to carry out those functions. So that's just one area. Vehicles. From time to time, yes, police will have vehicles, but vehicles that runs a police service or fire service, because when I speak, I'll speak on both fire and police from time to time. Vehicles that service a police or fire service cannot be used as normal vehicles. They have a shorter shelf life. And what I've highlighted to GOM is that we look at a rolling plan strategy in replacement of any asset, whether it be vehicles, whether it be a photocopier, that a shelf life is worked out, and we look at a rolling plan. So if our vehicle fleet is at 20 vehicles, our rolling plan will be maybe 4 vehicles a year, so, and you replace them after maybe every 5 years. So as a result, when 2 vehicles are say up to 3 years, you'll still have maybe 2 new vehicles with a shelf life of another 3 years. And what we could do coming out of that is making sure that when you have vehicles that you put on auction sale, that if you sell 2 vehicles at least, you could get quarter of one or even half of one, instead of government losing their asset for a few $100s. So those are some of the things which we need to put in our asset replacement strategy.
In recent years, we have seen significant changes in activities at our borders. What is that saying to us? Because we have to look at the data to assist us in moving forward. It is saying that we have intercepted more drugs in the last 5 to 10 years than we've ever seen before. What is that saying to us? It is saying to us that there needs to be a consistent drive to address it. We are operating within the Caribbean region, and you look at what is happening in every other Caribbean country. There is a significant increase in crimes, and in particular serious crimes. We can talk about murders, and we can talk about gun-related crimes, which have actually skyrocketed in a number of the Caribbean region. And it would be a disaster if we do not take those things into account, because there is no way we can be operating within the same region and we feel that this is not going to impact on us. It will be a disaster. I feel very passionate about it, and I'm making these statements simply because I am seeing a future where those sort of crimes will impact on Montserrat if we do not, 1, address them now, start addressing them now, and 2, if we do not have the necessary support to address them. And it is going to be more devastating on Montserrat in a shorter period of time. And the simple rationale for that is that we're living in a smaller area. We are a closer-knit community. We are smaller in number, and it is obviously going to impact more quickly. I can reflect on 2012, 2013. We had 2 murders. And you would have seen the rippling effect that it would have had straight across Montserrat. I am saying now we need to make decisive decisions and get our security at the forefront of what we're doing. And this is not just about the police. It is about the entire community. And I can assure you that once security is up and running and we are in position to take charge of our security, it spills over into the other areas of government. Investors are going to be more inclined to come into a peaceful place to do their investment. we're looking at Montserrat we're bound from a natural disaster. And it's important that we're able to have investors who come in, and people, as I said before, are more inclined to operate and do business in an extremely peaceful environment. We need to preserve that. That's an asset for Montserrat. It's a selling point, and we need to preserve it.
What's the situation though with the current vessel? I noticed that it's not been on the water for what, about a week or so now?
The current Shamrock is deemed unsafe to be on the waters full time. We have taken it out of the water to do a full hull examination. There's a bit of integrity issue with the hull, where we have a small area that we have a lot of concerns with, and it's unsafe to be on the water full time. If there's a case of emergency, yes, the vessel will be put back on the water, and that too is part of the challenge in relation to resources. The type of vessel which we have should not be on the water 24/7. And we do not have the ability, a proper slipway and a vehicle which could remove the vessel in a timely manner. So as a result, the vessel is on the mooring full time. And that in itself helps in the deterioration of the vessel to the negative of national security. And the vessel is on shore, we're having the integrity check done, and the vessel will be back in the water as soon as that is done, and the minor repairs which we have to do is taken care of.
Are you in a position to say where we are on this?
I believe that we are still at the beginning stage. I wouldn't want to say that. There's business cases which have been sent in from time to time to address this issue. Yes, national security is now placed on the government of Montserrat's policy framework as a major priority. And as you have picked up in the last press conference of the governor, she highlighted the fact that there's a necessity to make the Royal Montserrat Police Service fit for purpose. This was one of the areas which would have come out in our discussion as to making our organization fit for purpose. You asked about the criticalness of us having a vessel in the water. We have a ferry service. I just used that. We have a cruise ship in port as we speak. We are also a towed port for vessels coming out of the US, and we have to think of the ISPS, the codes, the SOLAS convention, and you also have to think of all the other maritime conventions which Montserrat is a part of. Any vessel coming out of the US and going back into the US, there should be a law enforcement vessel or a ship and port security vessel at the port. In relation to Montserrat, it's only one government vessel available for ship and port security, and it's only the MV Shamrock. So if it's out of the water, that means our ports security is questionable if you have to refer straight back to some of the conventions, IMO, SOLAS, and ISPS, which we are all part of. If there's an emergency, as I said, I'll put the vessel back in the water because it will be able to operate for emergency purposes.
As it relates to further resources that we actually need, I want to highlight the fact that the Royal Montserrat Police Service presently is running below staff, the required staff account. In saying that, having to actually detach 10 officers last year to actually take care of the burglaries put additional strain on the officers who are working either double shifts or triple shifts just to ensure that Montserrat will remain safe. We are presently, last count I had was over 10 officers short. Then this in itself causes a serious setback to some of the functions that we can actually carry out. However, we are still trying our best to ensure that we meet our deadlines, we go out, whatever investigations come in, we do our best to ensure that at the end of it, Montserrat is still as safe as it can be, and the necessary work that needs to be done is in fact carried out.
The general public is now seeing more officers on the road. We are actually stopping vehicles. We are speaking to persons. And some persons even report that they have been stopped too often. However, that's part of our slowing down process one, educational process two when we are speaking to you, and trying to keep persons safe. What we are also doing is looking at the use again of technical surveillance. So you'll be seeing radars back on the streets. So we'll be measuring your speed. We may stop you and tell you, okay, the speed limit is 20 miles an hour. However, we pick you up going at 30 or we pick you up going at 40. And whether you get a warning or you're reported, that's how it will be dealt with. So those are some of the ways which we are trying to actually address the speeding and or the issues of road traffic challenges. Some of the things we are looking at is whether or not we now have to consider, because braids is one of the areas which we seem to have the most traffic accidents according to the analysis of our data, whether or not we put some speed calming device in place, whether we put in speed bumps, whether it's safe to do that on a main road. And those are some of the things which we have to take into consideration. Or whether or not our education is actually reaching the persons which we are sending it to, or are we using the right medium to get it through? So that is where that is something which we are looking at now. Are we using the right medium? And if we are not using the right medium, now we need to relook at it and come up with ways of doing it. So we are now looking at different ways. One of the things which we are promoting now on Drive Time is actually how best we get young children to do the tips for us, get a tip of the month. And if we start getting the school children into it, maybe your children will come home to the parents and say, this is what is happening, mommy or daddy. My life is very important. I expect to see you home later. Please don't drive fast. And I just use that as a way of maybe one of the ways the message might be getting across. And we are doing that as one way. As I said, we'll be using our radar gun, and we have officers on the streets.
I know, for instance, that Gourmet Gardens and the former magistrate's house was like on fire. Can you tell me about that?
No one have been arrested in relation to those offenses so far. So we have not received enough evidence to arrest any person in relation to any of those matters. One person was interviewed in relation to the last two fires. The evidence was inconclusive. We didn't have enough information to bring a charge against anyone. However, we'll continue our investigation, and if there's evidence, we will arrest. There was a house fire reported in the Lookout District area, or Lookout. A dwelling house was totally destroyed, only the internal structure still available, or the external structure still available. That matter is under investigation. We cannot say too much. It's just yesterday that matter was reported to the police. We are trying our best to find the cause of the fire, and also the good thing about that fire, no one was injured. I've highlighted some of the safety issues already in relation to the first 50 houses and maybe some other houses that were built in Lookout, where the entry and exit is almost at the same place. So there's no rear exit in case you need to escape out of the house in case. And in this case, the concentration of fire appeared to be close to the actual exit, and persons would have had to pass through danger to get out of the fire. And that's something which all of us who are designing houses need to take into consideration, that there must be a secondary exit away from the main exits. The last reporting period saw some 53 reports of domestic disputes. And I said domestic disputes. It does not have to be domestic violence. And what we were doing before is that we were double counting in relation to domestic dispute / domestic violence. Domestic violence in itself is not a crime in inverted commas. And bear me out on this before, so that I'll explain. It could be an assault, which is the actual offense. It could be a wounding. However, it happened in a domestic environment. And because it's in a domestic environment, we may classify it as domestic assault. And we were double counting. Say, for instance, we would have said we had 100, and I just used numbers. We had 100 domestic violence. However, 90 of those were assaults. So it's skewed or data set. As a result, over the last year, we have changed our gathering of statistics to ensure that we don't end up with double counting. So now we're ending up with some 53 reports of domestic disputes, some of which might have included normal assaults again. And those, I wouldn't say it's increasing. Over the past years, we have seen that it has tapered out, if you call it that, because persons are now educated about what to expect. So as a result, in the earlier stages, and I'll go back to around 2000, when we actually start the domestic violence campaign, when we started in 12 cases in 2000. We went up to 100 and something cases in 2001, and then about 126 in 2002. After that, we are back coming down because persons are now educated, and people now realize that it's a zero tolerance also for domestic violence, domestic issues, and that whether or not persons are willing to come forward to give the evidence, that we can address it from that perspective. So as a result, we are not getting that many reports in relation to domestic violence.
What I would want to say on that is, it is possible that there are persons out there who are still afraid to come forward. Even in this day and age, that there are persons who are in fear. But we are making a special appeal to persons to come forward. Bring the reports to us. Bring the reports to us. It has to stop. It has to stop. And we are saying, if there are persons out there, find a friend, find a pastor, find somebody who you can relate to, and call the police, call a senior officer, call somebody. So we need to address it. In today's society, these are scourges that we need to get rid of. They are not doing us well. So the message is, bring the reports, send the reports to us so that we can address it.
Mr. Thompson highlighted the fact that you could find someone you're comfortable in speaking to, and no one is above the law. Once a report is made to the police will investigate the report and will address it appropriately. What we need, if there are certain matters which can be said to be sensitive, you could speak directly with a senior officer, contact a senior officer, and or if you want to speak with your counselor, your pastor, or any person, and they themselves could interact with the police, and we could address it from that perspective. All reports don't have to be made directly to the front desk of the station, especially those of a sensitive nature. We could address them from an office perspective, or there's times we need to meet those persons one-on-one before that report is actually placed in the system to ensure that that report is treated with the strictest confidence.
What is the possibility that after I bring a sensitive case to you because of who's involved, that you tell me, go and work it out when I am feeling in fear for my life? How does that happen? What happens there?
The police is here to serve the public. You are our customers. And if a report is made, we have a right to investigate your report and carry out whatever requests you have asked us to do. We cannot make a decision, we cannot be judge, jury, and decide on whether or not we should carry forward your report or not. We have a duty and a responsibility to both you and the community to carry out our functions appropriately well. So if a report is made to us and we do not carry out that report, then we are reneging on our responsibility to carry out our function as police officers. And then we will be in problems. We are in a more open society, that persons are more educated, and I would not say that child abuse have increased. I'm saying that persons feel more comfortable to report matters of child abuse to the police or the social services or any other persons who they feel comfortable with, that they'll make those reports. We also endeavor to deal with those reports in a timely manner. Those are sensitive reports. We have to also take into consideration that there's also we have a multi-agency approach to dealing with those issues. Social service works along with us, the health service, the school system, the education system, and this is a way of ensuring that the entire person is looked at, because these issues may have long-term effects on persons. As a result, we also want to make sure that those persons are taken care of at all levels.